And there we go. So we are live in the Hearth Space group, and I'm also recording. So this will be going out on my YouTube channel as well. My name is Maggie Rose Cunningham, and I am delighted to be interviewing today for our In Conversations With series, the lovely Karen Chappell. So Karen, if you just want to say hello so people can see your face.
Hello, nice to be here, and thank you for the conversation this evening.
Oh, it's my absolute pleasure. So an introduction to Karen. I met Karen on a planning retreat, which you know, we like to plan these things. We like to plan, and we like to do so in retreat for purpose-led business owners, for people who feel like they want to be of service, that they've got a calling, and we want to make that our profession. We want that to be the thing that we do. So it was really lovely to meet Karen, and you told me about your business, and I was intrigued, and it was like that you're the pain detective. And then a couple of people I know on the retreat were asking you about, what do you do? How does it work? And I was, obviously, because I'm nosy, so I was supposed to be working on my Excel spreadsheet with the plan, but I could see you standing behind people and just looking at their.
Yeah, you didn't.
I did. I was like, oh, what's she doing? Oh, how exciting. I want to know what's going on, because I've done so many different traditional medicine routes, alternative routes, so many different healing practices. The closest thing I could come to in terms of my own experience of what you were doing was partially energy healing, partially like chiropractic, kinesthesia, those sorts of work. So I was intrigued. And then while I was planning this year's work, and I was looking at working with edge dwellers and exiles and thinking about the first two themes that we were going to be working with. So this idea of things that are like pushed out of the mainstream, that aren't considered to be, they're just not part of the narrative, I suppose, that's been set up, is what we were looking at in the month where we worked with Jarnsaxa, who is the first wife of Thor, the god. So he's got Sif, his lovely wife, over there, but Jarnsaxa is this mysterious giantess. And so we worked with her, and she was bringing in all of these things about things that are unspoken, repressed, not talked about, not valued necessarily. She was bringing all of that through. And then we're moving into a month working with intuitive knowledge. You just seemed like the perfect person for me to therefore come and speak to. Partially also because there are a lot of people in the community, I think, because there are a lot of empathic, very emotionally aware, very open, very energetically sensitive people in the community who, for whatever reason, it can come with picking up other people's illnesses, with autoimmune challenges, with pain. That I just thought people would be really interested. So I would love to hear just a little bit about you in your own words, and what you do and how you came to this place here with me today.
Well, like you say, the planning retreat, but also we had a conversation about intuition, and I've just started to talk about my intuition, but I've always hidden it, and I've never really explored intuition because I've always tried to conform. And I think I described it as I had a foot in two worlds. I had one foot in the conventional trying to conform world, and then another foot in the spirituality and the intuition. And I actually found it really hard because I got this cognitive dissonance, like inside I was fighting against myself. And that's why I decided to call myself a maverick, because I was very logical, very analytical, and at the same time I was rebelling. So I go into, I want to conform, I need to conform, that's where I've been all my life. I want to be accepted no, I don't want to be a rebel, and I want to be an individual, and I want to be bright and colourful and intuitive, and to actually talk about these things. And so it's actually quite, I use the word a scary place for me, because it's the first time I've actually talked about this openly. Because I've hidden it. mm,
Really honoured to hold that space, and I know that so many people will resonate that within the community. And I have to say, actually, Karen, that I got my timeline confused a little bit there, because obviously we did speak, because we talked about this
mm.
subject, didn't we?
We did.
Before the planning retreat, we met through Kate Wolf's work.
Yes.
People know Kate Wolf, they know I talk about her quite a lot. And we had a conversation, didn't we? Because that,
Yes.
what you describe is something that I've struggled with, and I know so many people in our community have struggled with. Mine was coming from a university background where sort of evidence-based, intellectual, highly analytical, highly like rational, one side of the brain thinking is valued, and the other side of the brain and all of our intuitions and our emotional intelligence and our ability to pick up stuff that can't be, it can't be recorded
Yes.
on an instrument somewhere yet. No,
yes.
It's not respectable in some way, or respected, you might say. And I've had my own challenges around that. And I do work in the university sector now. And it's only in the last year that I've been so much more open. And I've gone in and done talks with university staff around high sensitivity and intuition. And this, I never thought would be possible. So I do feel as if that space is opening up, but it takes people like you to go, even though it's scary, I feel the calling to be of service in this work is stronger than my fear. And I have got my own theories about where that fear comes from. Do you know where that's rooted?
The fear of being open about spirituality.
Yeah.
For me, it's external influences, previous relationships, people who said, no, that's just rubbish, it doesn't exist. If you can't touch it, if you can't measure it, it doesn't exist. And so I started to hide everything that I'd experienced as a child. As a child, I used to get these sensations and feelings, couldn't understand them. I didn't know, I couldn't rationalize them. But then I started to mix with people who were incredibly logical, incredibly analytical. And then that was when that side of me, I call it my 3D creative side. So to me, logical is 2D black and white. And then when I go into spiritual, it's 3D color and it's beautiful. I can't describe how it makes me feel, but when I'm there, I feel whole and complete. When I'm just doing the black and white logical stuff, it's a little bit, there's something missing. There's a bit missing and I could never put my finger on it. And so that element was taken away. I suppose I gave it away because, again, I wanted to fit in. And if somebody said it doesn't exist because you can't measure it, you can't feel it, you can't see it. And I believed them and I chose to conform. Whereas now I'm starting to become a bit more brazen and more outspoken, and to say, well, I get these results. How do I get these results? Measure it. I don't know.
Yeah, and that's it. That's experience, and it's trust. I've talked about this in our community before, that I think one of the things that we can suffer with is that because we live in big society now, we don't live in small communities. In a community setting where everyone knows everybody else, somebody builds a reputation over time, and people know them and they trust them, and you get the local wise woman or the local healer. People go, oh, that's who you go to when you have a problem. But that's not the way that our society works anymore. It's all done by what's on your CV and on your LinkedIn profile. It's very, very different. It's a different experience, and incredibly difficult to convey the depth of trust that you build in a relationship with somebody who you work with over time, and you feel yourself getting steadily better, and you feel it in the moment during the session. It's just such a different way of working.
It is, definitely.
I love your description of Technicolor. It resonates with me so strongly. I remember writing that when I was a child, I used to see in Technicolor. CP, Technicolor, and I can still do it now. If people invite me in, I can still sort of see the inner landscape, but it shut down over time because it wasn't, I couldn't understand why nobody else understood when I was talking to them. They'd be like,
yes.
What? And so you can shut that faculty down over time. But I think that's one of the things that really interests me, that, and I know that a lot of people in our community are seekers. They're looking for knowledge, they're looking for answers, they keep on going. It's that pursuit of the, why do I feel this way? Why is this way? Why is that way? What is it for you that made you make that transition from going, well, I'm being a fitness instructor, I'm doing well in this, to going, I need to know more and I need to pursue this path?
I think it was a double-edged sword for me. It was about satisfying an innate curiosity. And I don't know whether that's unique to me or whether it's part of being sensitive. But there was never a conclusion. I was always, oh, that's interesting. That's, what's around that corner, and what does that involve? And when I was working with my clients, I realized that whatever I did, it was great at the time, but it didn't actually provide a solution. And that was my driving factor, to be able to get a solution for my clients. But for me, I just followed the journey. And that was, sometimes we go through tough experiences, whether it's personal or professional. Sometimes we have challenging experiences that actually feel really, really bad at the time, but they create us. They form who we are today. And I can look back at some of the things I experienced in the past and think, oh, that was uncomfortable at the time, but it took me on a path. It was almost as though I was being guided. And for the longest time, I did a lot of training when I started to move more into helping people rather than crunching numbers, which is what I did before. And I just started to follow this path, and I didn't know why, and I couldn't stop. I cannot make it I have no idea why I did it. I just know that at some point I started off in the fitness industry, and then I trained to be a counsellor. I did a 4-year course, and at the end of it, I still didn't know why. There's no logic in that. It wasn't as though I planned to be a counsellor. I just had this unpleasant experience I didn't know how to deal with. So a colleague had a very unpleasant experience, and she came to me for help, and I wasn't trained to deal with it. And as a healer, but I didn't know it at the time, I thought, I want to find out more about this so that I can help other people. And so that led me down the counselling path. 4 years later, I got qualification. Didn't know why I was doing it, but I was having a ball at the time, so I went, oh, what's next? It's like this innate curiosity, and the world started to open. So where I was before, I was quite, I sat in front of a computer all day. I didn't really have a lot to do with people. So I was very focused on spreadsheets, numbers, data, and all that sort of thing. And then all of a sudden, I was starting to find my passion. And I can feel it now. It's like 2D black and white. Oh no, everything just closes up. And when I start working with people, I can feel the passion and helping them. And then I started to work with, so I've got movement therapy within the fitness industry. And I started to work with neurological conditions and GP exercise referral. And then I got the talking therapies, which is a counselling. And then I thought, this is absolutely brilliant. But it was never enough. And then I decided, for some unknown reason, that I was going to become an osteopath. And so I went down the route of body work, and I had a massive training in different types of body work. And I touched on energy healing, so like spiritual healing, Reiki, all those sorts of things. And then I started to realize that I was being guided when I was working with clients one-to-one rather than in a group environment. I was being guided to put my hands, it might be on the leg, or because when I work with my clients, they're fully clothed. It could have been on their leg, it could have been on the hip, and I didn't know why. And then I was starting to get these strange sensations in my fingertips. And people would say, oh, that feels like electricity. Not in a bad way. It was like a connection.
Mm.
And then that was when I started to almost, I'm jumping around on the questions, but if it's okay, I started to not ignore my training, but really challenge my training. So I'd spent years and years and years training conventional therapies. And I thought, well, actually, I don't know whether this is working for my clients, because I'm just doing this, whatever it was, and I was starting to get results. So there was a bit of me that was still hiding the intuition, because I have no idea why I put my hands where I do. But I just feel guided to do that. Whether, I don't know whether it's subconscious, I have no idea. And so all of the, did you want to say something?
No, I put my hands together because I'm fascinated. Honestly, I'm finding it fascinating. I know that other people are as well. I can see that Candice is saying how interesting it is in the chat. So please carry on. Don't worry, I will keep us on track with the interview. These are interviews like me, always meandering. I don't know how to interview people without being meandering. So meander.
So I had all my conventional training, and then I started, apart from counselling, I never ever questioned that, but a lot of the physical stuff I started to question, because my clients kept coming back to me with the same problem. They came like a boomerang. You know, I do a bit on their shoulder, they go away, and then they'd be back again, and I do a bit on their shoulder, they go away, and they'd be back. And I thought, actually, I'm not actually solving the problem. I'm just another sticking plaster. I'm just another pill that they might take to take the pain away. And so I stripped away a lot of my training. And I have to say that a lot of that you can do when you've gone through the training. And it's a very, very strange experience. You need to go through the training in order to say, that's great, that's not working quite so well. That's great, that's not working. And then I started to cherry pick all those great things, and I started to bring them together for my clients. So everything I do for my client is unique to them. Throughout my experience, I've discovered that I can give a movement or an exercise to one person, or a release to one person. I've created something I'm calling mobilizers. So it's a gentle release. I can give that mobilizer to 10 different people, and they'll respond in 10 different ways. Which means when people say, can you give me a tip? Or you mentioned an exercise, can you give me some exercises? I can, but I don't know whether it would work for that particular person. Because they are unique, absolutely unique, and they respond in different ways. And whatever they've been through in their past, whether it's physical trauma, emotional trauma, it doesn't matter what they've been through, they will respond in a different way to you or I, because we are all truly unique. And that was one of the biggest things that I've taken from my journey. And that is, we go to I use the word as a therapist, whether it's conventional or spiritual. We'll go through, probably not spiritual actually. We'll go to a healer of some description, and we are treated in exactly the same way as the next person.
Yeah.
And we're not at all in any way, shape or form. And so as I work with my clients, I might be guided, if I'm working face to face, I might be guided to put my fingers on their foot. And in fact, I'll give you an example. Sorry, I told you my orange box would come out. My passion's coming out now. I've been working with a client face to face, and she came before Christmas, and I have a micro gym where I can use my equipment to just to analyse gait, or, you know, get them on the treadmill. And I put a couch out, and she was lying on the couch, and I felt guided to put my hands on her foot. And as I was feeling, her feet felt different. She came to me with a completely different condition, but I felt the need, the desire, the urge, and I can't describe it. I just had to put my hands on her foot. And I just happened to put my finger to point where she said, oh, that's where it is. So she'd come to me with one condition, which started off as a trapped nerve in the shoulder, but I was drawn to work with her foot. And there was something going on in her foot that I managed to resolve over a period of time. And she was able to walk, she was able to wear shoes again, you know, not quite high heels, but a little kitten heel. But she didn't come with that condition. It was just that I was drawn there, and I can't explain it. And this is why I think everybody's different. Everybody's got different issues, and the way I work and the intuitive, and it's starting to come across online, although it's not quite so strong. But I'm starting to think, oh, I need to ask them to move in such a way, whatever it is, whether it's do this or whatever. But it's not as strong as when, you know, when we were on the planning retreat. It's almost as though my hands have not got a mind of their own, but I'm thinking, oh, actually, that doesn't look quite right. Let me just put my hands here and see what happens. And I did actually work on one of the ladies there, and she was astonished.
Oh, that's amazing. And Candice is actually saying in the chat, which I think is really helpful, she's saying, I feel that this type of healing is what's missing in our society, just talking about the blend between Western and Eastern, or old and new. And as you were speaking, I was thinking about this as well. I was thinking about my belief, because I felt a lot of guilt once I realized that I had that my calling was to work with with spirit and soul and the unseen. I thought, well, what have I just done with the last 25 years that I was trying to forge this career in higher education as well? Was I completely off the mark? And I went and I asked about that, and I was told no, you were born with all of that intuition and the seership skill and all of these things which a lot of people have, but in our society that isn't valued. And so your calling was to put that to one side, go and learn the rules of the society in which we live, so that you then have the credibility to be able to become a bridge between those two places. And that's what I see when you were speaking. I was like, that it is that bridge between conventional healing and intuitive healing, and saying, actually, we need both. We should have both. And that it's a difficult place to stand, but it's such an important place to stand. So yes, I say on behalf of us all, thank you for taking that stand. And before I forget, because I do want to make sure that I'm picking up on people's questions as they go through. So Candice also says that that it's really hard to balance intuition and spirituality in this society. And that is really helpful, even though it can feel uncomfortable, and it can feel edgy and uncomfortable. And I know that I'm definitely going to be going into that place all through this year. Deciding to do a whole year on edge walking and exile is bound to be that way. But yeah, to honor that place. And Kathy, who posted a question, has just popped in as well, and she's just asked, do you work at a distance?
I do, yes. I work online. I'm based in Leicestershire, but I can work both face-to-face and or online. And the lady I talked about, where I was drawn to the foot, there she's having a combination. So she comes for some of the face-to-face contact, and then sometimes it's online. So again, it's about what the client needs, what the client wants. And if they're happy to work online, then yes, absolutely. Or if they want to work face-to-face or in person, then that's okay too.
Fabulous. So you do both. And I know that you've got a website, so you're going to share that with me as well. So because Kathy had asked a question earlier, she was saying, do you have any like an online presence and resources and materials that people can look at? So we're going to pop that into the chat box too. So Kathy, keep your questions coming. That's great. And for those who are also watching, please do pop them in, and I will make sure that I ask your questions, ask Karen those questions before we get to the end.
Can I just say I'm not really good on Facebook?
That's fine.
I'm on LinkedIn, but Facebook baffles me.
So if people want to get in touch with you, your website's probably the best place, isn't it?
Yes. Or LinkedIn.
Or LinkedIn. Okay. And we can put both into the chat box so that people know that as well. We sort of covered this, but maybe I just want to ask a little bit more. Well, no, you have answered it, but I'm just going to ask the question and see whether there's anything else that you wanted to say in it, because you were talking about the way in which you had this pull, let's say. I always think about it as in the northern tradition we talk about Odin, and he's like the god of curiosity, and that's like one of my life values is curiosity. So I was really glad when you said there's that curiosity. He has two wolves called Geri and Freki, and both of their names basically mean greedy. And I always feel as if it's that if you have a taste of the thing that your soul is hungry for, you want more.
Oh my goodness. Are you talking about dopamine as well?
Who knows? I wasn't actually talking about dopamine, but yes, that idea that we might not be able to put into words, this is where I'm going, this is what my purpose is, this is why I'm doing this. But there is this sense of this, if I as I understand how it tastes and how it feels and what it looks like and how it makes my body light up and I feel that resonance, then we follow this. It becomes like a beacon. And that's what I was hearing when you were speaking. But I just wondered if there is anything else for people who might be on a similar journey of sort of saying, I keep my spirituality and my intuitive side like in a box out of sight, and then I'm out there in the world and I feel as if maybe and that's absolutely fine, by the way. We can
but also you're not being congruent. And that's the biggest thing. You're not being true to yourself, and it's a scary place. For me it is. It's actually stepping out of your comfort zone to say, well, yes, I can do the conventional. Yes, I can do whatever it is, but my passion, and if you describe it as a passion, then you can sort of slide the intuition in there and people will accept it a little bit more. And there are more and more people who are talking about intuition online.
Yes, I've noticed that as well. And I think that you're right. I think it's about vocabulary, isn't it? It's about saying, how can I push this far enough so that I'm feeling more in congruence, but I'm not sending those fear alert signals so high that I can't even speak or do what I need to do in the world. So it's balancing that. And I think unfortunately, it just comes with the gift, doesn't it? If you have if you are aware of other people's energy and you're aware of that you've got that sensitivity to the environment, very, very difficult to be in a room of people who all of their like hackles have just gone up because you've said something that make them go, oh well, oh dear, because you can feel it, can't you? So it's very hard to have a thick skin when your design is to be sensitive, to have sensitive feeling, touching, knowing what's going on energetically. So I do think we have to be kind to ourselves, don't we, and take it one step at a time.
Actually, you've struck a memory for me. I actually withdrew from society because I didn't feel as though I was understood. And sometimes people say that's very judgmental of me. But sometimes if you are a sensitive person and you're not getting that resonance with the person you're talking to, then there's a tendency to withdraw, take a step back until you find somebody who you resonate with. And I'd forgotten all about that. And I was doing that even at school.
And again, I think that's such a common experience. We were actually talking about it. I did a live yesterday when we're talking about Heimdall, who's the bridge keeper of Asgard. He looks out over the bridge and he has these senses. He can hear the grass growing and the wool growing on the sheep's backs. He's sort of, which to me sounds like a sensitive person. And we were talking about overwhelm. Since when you go into overwhelm, and he was introducing these themes around, yes, there are times when we need to retreat and go back in, and we need to understand what that sensory overwhelm might feel like. And there are also times when we need to be able to go back into what I think of as the center. You know, we've retreated to the edges to recuperate. And then it's how do you journey back into the center, and how do you do that more and more safely each time? And I have heard that before, people sort of saying, oh, you're placing a judgment on the society and with which you are in if you choose to withdraw from it. I think that's okay, person. Yes, I am making a judgment on it. I don't like it. It's okay just to be, you know, I sort of think that's all right. But yeah, I get it that people will say that sometimes, won't they? And that's hard as well. And you just think, wow, I can't even withdraw.
Yes.
Without judged as being wrong in some way. Like I can't go and retreat. But I think that is becoming more acceptable as like introversion is also being spoken about a lot more. I think people are starting to understand. And neurodiversity of all kinds is opening up these fields of celebrating difference. In unexpected ways.
Yeah, and so you're just talking about celebrating difference, and people acknowledge the difference in emotions, in I use the word intellect, I can't think of another word at the moment, and yet as soon as we talk about the physical, we're lumped into one category of you've got a body, 2 arms and 2 legs, generally speaking, and therefore you were responding such and such a way, and it's just not true.
And again, you know, we're so far behind. We're only just recognizing, because, you know, I come from a research background, that the majority of drugs were tested on men, and women are physiologically quite different. You know, and it's why, you know, drugs that haven't been tested on children, there are so few that we can use on children. So there is this sort of recognition, but we classify it as you're either a man, a woman, or a child. It's like, there's so much more than that, isn't there? There's so much more than that in terms of our differences.
And of course, a lot of the research is done on animals.
Yes. Yeah.
And we're not mice. You know, it just doesn't make sense to me at all.
No.
Something's got to change.
Yeah. We shall make that change happen gently with love.
Yeah. Well, one of the things I'm talking about now is I want to create a personal healthcare revolution. And to actually say those words, I'm saying
all of the now, I'm just going to say, I'm going to go "Wunyo" to that, but you don't even know what that means, Karen. I know it's like our celebration when someone has said something important and brilliant. So "Wunyo" to you, it means joy. So yes, we witness you. Personal healthcare revolution.
Because things are changing. You know, we take too much medication. Sometimes it has to be taken. Sometimes it's necessary. But I work with people, and they've been taking usually painkillers, ibuprofen or something similar. And one of the ladies was taking medication for pain for 10 years. She doesn't anymore.
It's amazing. That is
amazing. I've just had another dopamine hit, because I get so much joy from helping people to realise that things can change. Things don't have to be that way. That there is an alternative way, and it works. It does work. And so, you know, now I'm working with people who've had surgery and shoulder replacements and things like that. I never ever dreamt I'd be doing that, working online. but every now and again something goes behind me and says, go on, just do it.
Just do it, just move those edges out a little bit more, just the next one and the next one. And I know that you said that your success rate is about 95 to 98%, which is amazing. That's wonderful. Yeah, I mean, that's got to be celebrated, hasn't it? And to make the difference, you know, as somebody who, and I know that there are other people in the group as well, as somebody who is on medication, like very, very hot, you know, extreme medication for the management of pain. I did go down obviously was doing the medical route, but I also did every other form of healing route that I could experience. I remember the moment when I felt someone pull out what I felt as like the source of the disease out of my body, and I knew when it had arrived. It was much earlier than my physical symptoms. And to be medication free, when the doctors had said to me, you know, I was 26 at the time, and they were like, "That this is you for life, you know, that's it," is a unfathomable gift to a person. You know, I probably wouldn't have been able to have children. I couldn't walk at that point. You know, all of these things is just it's such a gift. And I just think, why are we placing rules that aren't based on experience? No, they're not based on client experience and patient experience. They're, you know, we should be being open to. I would have tried anything that would work at that point, you know. And I think it was the combination. I genuinely think it was the combination. I don't think it was one.
No, that very rarely is, because we are the whole person, and it's when I work with my clients, I work with the whole person, head to toe, inside and out. I don't just work with the little itty bitty muscle here that's just messing about, because that's connected to something which is connected. And if you look at a coat hanger shoulders, and somebody will have their shoulders up here, and you'll say, you okay? And they'll say, I'm fine, there's nothing wrong with me, because that's what they've got used to. They've got used to holding their stress, and then their shoulders go up, and you can't deal with one thing and not the other. You have to work with the whole. And I'm just starting to work with the spiritual as well. So
yeah, which is wonderful. And it takes, again, I think about like the wise woman, or the idea of elderhood, and part of that is that it is that accrued experience. It's bringing knowledge from different fields and different modalities of data, you know, all coming in, and that's synthesized within that relationship, which I know you've talked about, that it's about that relationship you have with the patient, with the client. That's where the change occurs, and you do need that experience, don't you, and to learn what your intuition is telling you. Is there, because I wanted to ask you actually about the whole person approach, and you've mentioned the spirit side, you mentioned the physical side, you mentioned counselling being brought in as well. Is there anything else when you say a whole person approach, what might that cover for you?
The first thing I do when I start working with a new client is listen. I listen to them talking about their life experiences. And I think that's where part of my intuition starts to work. So I listen to the voice, I listen to the breathing, I listen to how they're talking, the words they're using, sometimes the emotions. And that starts to help me to identify how I need to work. And by that I mean, some people have a different way of working. I can't put it into words at the moment. So if somebody is very sensitive, very emotional, then I can tone everything down. And I can only do that by listening. So there's the sensory aspect comes in. So there's the audible, and there's I can't do it online, but there's a touch, and I'm starting to get a sense of energy through working online, but it's only a sense. And actually, I've just done it now, so I get an idea in my head, about what may be happening for the client. So although I can only see your head, neck and shoulders, I can't see your arms, can't see your body, I can't see your legs, but I'm starting to get a picture of what may be going on, what may be happening. And then I do build rapport with my client, and I suppose that's why I did the counselling in hindsight. So I build rapport very quickly with my client, because I do need trust. I need them to trust that they're going to be safe in my hands, that I don't ever make pain intentionally worse. If the pain does increase, then I say, okay, let's stop and let's take that level back down again. Whereas some of the physical practitioners work on quite aggressive movements. Don't do that at all. So it's about what helps the client. It's listening to what the client needs, feeling what the client needs, hearing what the client needs, and then sort of working. It's really difficult to put that into words, and this is probably why I struggle to promote what I do, what I truly do. So I could say, yes, I help people who are in pain, but what I truly do is so much more than that.
Yeah, and I can hear that, and I know that lots of people will understand what you're saying. You know, we have energy healers and distance healers and seers as well, and certainly what you're saying about tuning into somebody else's frequently and just knowing. When I do Middle Earth readings on a Monday, you know, I'm coming and different people are coming and they're sharing their runes, and sometimes it just comes really, really fast. Oh, just speaking it, I'm saying it. And sometimes I have to move my body out of one person's energy to move into the next.
Yes.
So, you know, I know that for me, kinesthetic reading is very important. My body tells me, so it's learning, isn't it? It's learning your own intuitions and learning what's yours and what's your clients as well. You know, and there are times now when I go, oh, this is that is triggering something in me that I need to deal with, because that's so that I can be a channel for the person. So, and that came through really, really strongly. And that idea of a whole person approach also being about how your client needs to receive in medical terms they call it the intervention, wouldn't they?
Yes. Yes, I don't intervene. No, I'm a facilitator.
Facilitation, the facilitation, the process, but it's so much about how they need to receive it as well, that can't otherwise it's it's just not working on all levels, and the trust is being undermined energetically, even if you're doing something good physically.
Yes.
Kathy says, I love the way you explain yourself, and I understand.
Oh, thank you.
So yeah, it's a nice affirmation there. Let me see what else is. Candy says, I'm so glad that you wunyoed. Good, wunyo. They're all wunyoing with you. And Kathy's saying we need to change that approach to healthcare, to honouring all that's available. That she hears that same voice, that sense of that same pushing with my art and my connection with people, that you feel that need to do there. But there is fear of being wrong. You know, there's too much of it out there in the world. So it's a lot of sharing of your experience and recognizing your experience and how important the work is that you are doing out in the world. So yes, I have come to the end of my questions for you, Karen, which is we've perfect timing for how long we normally do conversations with. Is there anything that you would like to share with the group before we finish?
Only that I'm really happy to chat, so if anybody wants to connect with me, please do, and don't stand on ceremony, just get in touch and we can have a conversation.
Yes, I can say from personal experience, Karen is a delightful conversationalist, and you obviously held this space so beautifully. We will put Karen's website and her LinkedIn profile details in the chat so that you can see them. So I hope that this has given you an insight on all the different levels that I had wanted to. I thought, you know, Karen's going to be just the right person for us to speak to at this point. So much that others will resonate with in terms of your work and your calling and what you're doing, and so much insight for us as we feel more into edge dwelling and intuition and bringing in those fierce passions, you know, that curiosity and following that and doing that bravely, but also kindly and gently to ourselves. So it has been such a pleasure interviewing you. Thank you so much. And thank you to Candice and Kathy for joining us. If anyone else has any questions, obviously, I can pass those on to Karen, but also you can get in contact with her directly. But it has been lovely. So I'm going to finish the live now. Thank you to Karen.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure.
And thank you to everyone who has joined us.